for this last question on this paper, number 11, part A says express x squared plus 4x plus 2 in the form x plus a squared plus b. That's a completed square form where a and b are integers. And for this, we're just going to complete the square for this. So it's x plus half of this, which is 2 squared, plus 2 minus this squared, which is 4, right? And we get x plus 2 squared minus 2, right, for 2 marks. And the next part is saying the functions f and g are defined as follows. F of x is x squared plus 4x plus 2, which is the same as this, for x being less than or equal to minus 2, and g of x is equal to minus x minus 4, for x being greater than or equal to minus 2. And B part 1 says find the expression for the inverse of f of x. Right, so going forward with this expression, I will be using this instead of this, right? Because I feel like this will make our calculations easier to work with than this one, especially for this next part, which is saying find the inverse of f of x. Because if we're using this, we just say that's y equals x plus 2 squared minus 2, right? Then for y we put x, and for x we put y. This will be x equal to y plus 2 squared minus 2. Then we make this y the subject to get the expression for the inverse, right? And as you can see, this is better than using this, right? And making the y the subject, taking the minus 2 to the other side, so it's x plus 2 is equal to y plus 2 squared, right? And to get rid of this, just going to square root both sides, plus or minus. So y plus 2, this will be equal to plus or minus root of x plus 2, right? And y will be equal to minus 2, taking this 2 to the other side, plus or minus root of x plus 2, right? So since the range of this inverse, this is now our expression for the inverse, but we're still to decide which sign to take, right? So knowing that this is our inverse, we know that the range of this inverse is the same as the domain of the original function, and the domain of the original function is x is less than or equal to minus 2. So that means our inverse should be less than or equal to minus 2. And for us to get values that are less than minus 2, we have to be subtracting from minus 2. So this has to be y equals to minus 2 minus root x plus 2. This way we know that for whatever value we get for this part, we always subtracting from minus 2. So if we get a 0 here, it's minus 2 minus 0, which is minus 2. Then if we get any other values that are not 0, we get values which are less than minus 2. And so for that, we're taking minus and not the positive sign. So the inverse of x is minus 2 minus root of x plus 2, like this. Then for 3 marks, and B part 2 says find the expression for the inverse of gf of x. The inverse of gf of x. So for us to get the inverse, we first need to get gf of x, right? So where we have an x in g of x, we're going to replace that x with f of x. So in g of x, we're going to put this whole thing here where we have x, but we'll be using this and not this, right? Let me just rub this out. This whole thing is going to replace this, but we'll be using this form instead of this. So that's minus a minus outside, so it's minus this, right? Let's start off by writing it as it is, minus x squared plus 4x plus 2 minus 4. Replacing this x with this, right? This is our g of x. It's like this, and we know this can also be written as x plus 2 squared minus 2 minus 4, right? And this will come down to, if we multiply this by, this is a minus 1, 2 minus x plus 2 squared minus 4, like this. And this will give us minus 2 minus x plus 2 squared, like this, right? As our gf of x. And now to find the inverse, we're just going to assume this is y, so y is equal to minus 2 minus x plus 2 squared, and replacing this with an x is x equal to minus 2 minus y plus 2 squared. Right, we swap the 2, and now we're going to try and make this the subject. So x plus 2 is equal to minus y plus 2 squared. And dividing both sides by minus 1, we get y plus 2 squared equal to x plus 2 over minus 1, which is as good as minus x minus 2, right? And for us to get rid of this, we're going to square root both sides, and doing that we get this equal to y plus 2, and taking that 2 to the other side will be y equals to minus 2 plus or minus root of minus x minus 2, like this. So write gf, the inverse, like this, is equal to minus 2 plus or minus root of minus x minus 2. And so for us to be able to pick a sign between these two, we consider the domain of the inner function. We're working with gf of x, right? So the domain of this inner function will be the range of the inverse of this whole thing, right? I'll check that again. This is the inverse of gf of x, right? And for gf of x, we're only considering the domain of the inner function f of x, and we're saying that domain is equal to the range of the inverse of gf of x. So the domain of f of x from the question here, it's x is less than or equal to minus 2, right? X is less than or equal to minus 2, and that means that for the inverse of gf of x, it's also less than or equal to minus 2. And for us to get something that is less than minus 2 from this, we will be taking this minus, right? Because if we take a positive, we'll get minus 2 plus something, which will give us a number or numbers that are greater than minus 2, but we want numbers that are less than or equal to minus 2. right? So for that we're going to take minus, so the expression for the inverse of g f of x like this will be minus 2 minus root of minus x minus 2 for that reason, right? Because we want our inverse to be less than or equal to minus 2. For it to be equal, if we get a 0 here, it will be minus 2 minus 0. But if we get something that's not a 0, since we're subtracting from 2, we get something that's less than minus 2 always, right? And that's how we come about this. And that's it for paper 1-2 from May June 2025. Thank you guys for joining me.